I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational, but that just wouldn't be our style.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
SportsTownChicago.com. Lombard, part of the Beyond Air Network and available on the TuneIn app.
Hell yeah.
Broadcast home for your Windy City Bulls and the Chicago Dogs. We're in a league of our own. Now, here's your SportsTownChicago.com scoreboard update.
At 5 o'clock on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025, I am your host, Mike Napolitano, with your SportsTownChicago.com update, powered by the Illinois Media School. If you are interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. Chicago Bulls basketball is on the menu tonight as the Bulls inch closer to a 500 record at home. This evening, they will have to attempt that against the struggling Pelicans team. New Orleans is 8-32 on the season and 3-16 when playing on the road. The Bulls are 18-21 and 8-12 at the United Center, so they are just as close to mediocrity in both home and away records these days. Jones are out tonight for New Orleans. For Chicago, it'll be center Adama Sanogo and small forward Torrey Craig on the IR. Point guards Kobe White and small guard Ayo Dosunmu are both game-time decisions, as well as forward Emmanuel Miller. White and Dosunmu are expected to be back today. Miller and Sanogo tomorrow. Craig will not be back until January 27th. The tip-off is at 7 p.m., and if you are not headed to the United Center, you can catch this game on the Chicago Sports Network or on AM 670. The Score. The Bulls open up the season against the Pelicans, but they have yet to play them since that loss. This will be the first game against them at home of the season. So once again, 7 p.m. Bulls basketball tonight. That's your SportsTownChicago.com updates, brought to you by the Illinois Media School. If you have a career in interest in media, go to beonair.com.
Here to center for Taves. You got a breakaway. Taves to win the game. Hawks win. Hawks win. Jonathan Taves. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. Call your sons. Call your daughters. Call your friends. Call your neighbors. Mark Burley has a perfect game going to the ninth. We're trying to get open. Fires away. It's over. The Bulls win the buzzer. Wayne Wise makes the catch. What a play by Wise. Mercy. He got off. One to go. Keeps a game. 2-1. Put back point up a shot. Open. Chicago with the lead. The Chicago Bulls have won their 6th NBA championship, and it's their second three-peat. Alexei! Yes! 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 History! To the net, they score! It's it! They score! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup! The Hawks win the Stanley Cup! A ground ball past Jenks up the middle of the infield. Uribe has it. He throws. Out! Out! A White Sox winner and a world championship! The White Sox have won the World Series, and they're mobbing each other on the field! Pennington Kurashev plays the rebound for Bedard down low. Bedard scores! Unbelievable! Connor Bedard! Dude, that was insane.
Well, another Tuesday and another week full of sports, whether that be Chicago sports or playoff football, which we know is not here in Chicago. But before we dive right into that, I just want to let you know that you can go on social media and follow myself, Mike Napolitano, on X, Mike_Napolitano on Instagram, or Mike Napolitano 5 on Snapchat. SportsTownChicago.com and the Illinois Media School are both on X and Instagram. But let's jump right into the Bears news that we know for the week. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot, which, you know, if you listen to Colin Cowherd, which, I mean, he's a very controversial figure in the sports world, and most of his takes are wild, crazy, dare I say, inaccurate. However, he was right about one thing. If you're the Chicago Bears and you fired your head coach the day after Thanksgiving, and you are still putting together a list of 13 or 14 candidates for your head coaching job on January 14th, and this has been going issue really since last year, but you decide to finally part ways with Matt Eberflus in November. Somebody should have told George McCaskey that, because the minute the postseason press conference happened, he said, and I quote, "We want to thank Matt Eberflus." Buddy, that was 6 weeks ago. 7 now. That was 6 weeks of the season ago. You're not in playoffs. There will be no more thanking Matt Eberflus. How about thank your current head coach, Thomas Brown, for being stuck in crazy position into 1 week of offseason and then immediate promotion to head coach. I mean, a lot to throw on that guy's plate. You said, okay, Shane Waldron is just straight up zero to head coaching position because we're in a rut. We're in a situation that we put ourselves in as the Bears front office, they should sing. And now it's time for us to put a Band-Aid over the water dam that is exploding, flooding the vat. So the Bears do have a bunch of in the running for coach. One of the names that is no longer on that list, Mike Vrabel. He's out of the conversation after signing with New England. I think everybody saw that and could see the writing on the wall that he was going to be returning to the Patriots in some fashion, especially as a coaching job. But there are a lot of other names being thrown out there. The Bears actually asked the Dallas Cowboys for permission to speak with Mike McCarthy. Since then, Mike McCarthy has not re-signed with the Cowboys, so it's looking like Mike McCarthy is out of Dallas. I don't know about that. Have you seen anything that Mike McCarthy has done lately that has been anything good? Not really. I mean, this is a Cowboys team that has had talent on it and has failed time again. Granted, a lot of that is trickle down from the ownership saying we're going to have a big off season and we're going to get all the things that we need to bolster this team and get back to the playoffs. And then they have the smallest off season imaginable right there next to Thomas Brown's tenure, that sample size that I was talking about. So Mike McCarthy is an option. He's the only one of the list that has a Super Bowl ring. And I mean, does he know what it takes to beat the Packers? Not with the Cowboys. He doesn't, but he coached the Packers for a number of years, won that ring with Green Bay. So if there's what the Bears are looking to sign on in order to beat the Packers, this might be your guy, dare I say. I mean, I don't think we should just chalk it up to solely beating the Packers. I mean, the Bears could go 2-15 on the season if all Mike McCarthy does is help the Bears beat the Packers. It's quite possible. We saw how this year turned out. 5 whole wins, just the same as last year, basically. I don't know if Mike McCarthy would be the move to push this team forward. But you can't argue with experience, I guess. It's just, is it becoming like baseball where it's a boys' club? Or really almost any sport where it's a boys' club. Coaches are being recycled. After a while, I don't know enough about the game the White Sox did with Tony La Russa. Yes, Tony La Russa, Hall of Famer, phenomenal career on the field and behind the bench. But when it came time to jump back into the game after 10 years, he did absolutely nothing to help that White Sox team. In fact, he hurt that White Sox team. So I'm not saying Mike McCarthy's in that same boat. Obviously, he's more up to date with the league, still coaching in the league. I just don't know if he still has the favorable Mike McCarthy tenure that you've seen at his peak years coaching in this league, especially when he was with Green Bay. Now, another name that I was actually brought up on Saturday radio show on AM 1410, that is On the Rise. Actually, it was after On the Rise. It was on The Truth About Chicago Sports from 10 to noon on Saturdays. I stayed for that one. Marcus and I were talking to a caller who brought up, if Ohio State loses the national championship to Notre Dame, is he for sure out at Ohio State? I'm sorry, did I say Ryan Day? Yeah, Ryan Day out at Ohio State? Ohio State could not beat their rivals, Michigan, this year. If Ryan Day gets them a championship, there's even some talk that he still might not be their guy in the new year, in the new season, because of the fact that, a ring is nice, but they wanted to beat their rival. I mean, I'd take the ring over beat a rival any day, although there are a lot that would be much both games to the Packers during the regular season. I disagree with how bad sport, no matter what it takes, still the playoffs went on a run and just got hot and won a ring. Won the Super Bowl. I think some, if not all, would be forgiven by myself, but maybe not the fans, because you're going to hear it from Green Bay fans. You're going to hear it from Lions fans. You're going to hear it from Vikings fans. Well, yeah, Bears won Notre Dame Fighting Irish during the regular season. That was a fluke of a game. But Ryan kicked out, basically. So it's a possibility the Bears should and could look into. Ben Johnson, though, has been the top name in this coaching search. And I just don't know. He's not a head coach. So I don't know if that is the best option. I mean, you're going to go from one non-coach in Matt Nagy to then Matt Eberflus, who wasn't a head coach, to Thomas Brown, who wasn't a head coach, to Ben Johnson, who isn't a head coach. He's an offensive coordinator for the really great Detroit Lions team at a bye in the playoffs. But how much of that is him and how much of that is the actual head coach and the talent in that room? That will be an interesting one to see. All right, let's jump into the NFL playoffs quickly. The Texans dismantled the Chargers 32-12 on Saturday. That was that AFC Saturday. You had two matchups. This was really the only upset because of the fact that every other team, as far as I could tell, well, actually, we'll get to Monday night in just a moment. Every other team that had a better record going in was a higher seed, won their game. But this one, I don't know if anybody saw Texans defeating the Chargers. This was a matter of just getting hot at the right time because the Texans were 5-3 at home. the Chargers were 6-3 on the road. So the Chargers actually had a better road record than the Texans had a home record. Also, the Chargers had won one more game on the season. They were 11-6. Texans were 10-7. But yet, the Texans still came out of this one victorious. I don't know if that's going to do much for them in the second round when they have to face the Chiefs, but we will get there. The other game on Saturday was the Bills destroying the Broncos 31-7. I think this one was... Oh, excuse me. That was the Sunday game. I'm skipping over. The Ravens doubled the Steelers 28-14. Again, the Steelers are eliminated in one playoff game after having a better season. This time they went 10-7 instead of 9-8. But it's the same old story in Pittsburgh. This time it was just a different quarterback. It wasn't your typical Ben Roethlisberger or you have to fill the gap in the meantime. This time it was Russell Wilson. And should the Steelers have played Justin Fields? It's up for debate. I think they have some decisions to moving forward. But they did in order to get an even worse draft pick by not playing Justin Fields 51% of the snaps during the regular season. So it got them just as far as they usually get, and you don't have to give up a high draft pick that they will most likely use this next year to help them maybe get to a second playoff game, while the Bears still get a bag of dirt and a pack of gum for Justin Fields. I don't think anybody had Ravens losing this game, despite the Steelers became a little bit better of a team. They were still going up against a juggernaut in the Ravens. Also, the Steelers went on a terrible losing streak towards the end of the season, in which it almost looked like they had their stands as far as their conference all locked up in the FC North. And then they ended up losing to the Chiefs and I believe the Bills and I believe the Ravens in there, dropped into second. They could have even had the bye at one point in the AFC as well, but didn't work out for them. And here they are going to Cancun, right? Now let's get to Sunday. Sunday, the Bills destroyed the Broncos 31-7. Not much to write about in this game because the Bills were 8-0 at home, 13-4. The Broncos 10-7. They were 4-5 on the road. I think everybody had the MVP, or soon to be MVP again, Josh Allen, winning this one with the 31-7 though. Yikes. I mean, they were down at one point into 3 Broncos after the first quarter, but they put goose egg up on the Denver side of things in the final 3 quarters. Meanwhile, the Bills had double digits in both quarters in the second half. So just stacking on the points. The Eagles humiliated the Packers 22-10. It was in reach for those Packers, but this wasn't exactly the same game that they were playing out in Rio. Start of the season, this one, I don't believe the Packers, remembering correctly, won that game either, but this was when that mattered, and the Packers were within reach at a certain point. However, that reach slowly slipped away. Eagles went up 10 by the end of the first quarter. Packers were sober the entire first half. They finally were able to put up 10 points in the third and a touchdown in the fourth quarter. 6 for the Eagles in that second half kept them in the lead on the board. Eagles will move on. Commanders, well, they just snuck out a win against the Buccaneers, 23-20, last second field goal. Bears, they may have been excited about the getting knocked out of the playoffs, but this Commanders game, I don't know about you, it reminded me of that Hail Mary game that lost to Commanders and then went on that extremely long losing streak. It was all downhill from there. Because once again, Washington finds a way in the final moments. And then Monday night, the only other upset, I believe, of this wild card round, the Vikings and the Rams. The Vikings were 14-3. Rams were 10-7. Both had superior or 500 records on the road and at home. The Rams, they technically, because this game was moved to Arizona due to wildfires in Los Angeles. The Rams 5-4 home over the season. The Vikings were 6-2 on the road. Everybody thought for sure the Vikings would continue their road dominance in this one. They score a touchdown in this game. 27-9. The Rams exposed the Vikings for the frauds that they are, and they the playoffs. I think everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall that the Vikings were once in, as always, kind of the team whose record doesn't accurately show how dominant are. Usually this Vikings team has a nice record, but then when it comes to crunch time, just can't get the job done. And usually that was with a quarterback that they trusted and was their elected starting quarterback to start the season. That's not the case. J.J. McCarthy was supposed to be the quarterback for this Vikings team, and he was injured all season, so it was Sam Darnold. I mean, you got to give props to Sam Darnold for what he did here. However, just was not enough, and Viking fans will have to try it all again next year, probably with J.J. McCarthy. But look at next week before we look at next year. On the AFC side of things, it'll be number one in the Lions. On the NFC side, getting buys. Now they will be in this divisional round. The number one Chiefs will go up against the number 4 Texans at 3:30 on Saturday is on ESPN and AC. Kansas City is favored -8 on the spread. And then you have the number 2 Bills going to 15th next Sunday. Be on CBS and Paramount Plus. Things, one game on Saturday and one game on Sunday. So a bit lower of a seed on the NFC side of things. Detroit is heavily favored in this one. They are -10 on the spread. That'll be on Fox. And then the number 2 seed Eagles against the 4th seed Los Angeles Rams. That'll be at 2 p.m. That's the early game on Sunday. It'll be on NBC and Peacock. Philly is favored in this one -6.5. I don't think I mentioned Baltimore going back to Bills and Ravens. That's going to be close and exciting game. Baltimore is favored ever. They're -1 on the spread. So it'll be good. Also coming up before we get in 7th seed Notre Dame and the 13-2 8th seed Ohio State University. Be sure to check that one out on the spread. Ohio State is favored -8 game as well. Well, maybe a 1 touchdown game. The Chicago Fire start in Fury. Not a whole lot of games to circle on the calendar, considering this Fire team is in a bit of a rut. However, the one that I did is Miami will to town sooner rather than later so that Messi doesn't get hurt in another tournament and miss out on coming to Soldier Field. So Sunday, April 13th, the Chicago hosts Miami, 3:30 p.m. So make sure you go and get your tickets for that one. Not really seeing a whole lot else in here, but February it's going to be cold. Chicago Fire soccer back in action. No news as far as the women's future schedule. It'll probably come out in about a month or so. There is getting picked for the U.S. national team. Fabian Herbers was transferred to Montreal. Tobias Salquist to Europe, and Giorgio Lucas was loaned to another team out in Europe. So I don't know if they're making it back for the start of the season. The Fire didn't Zinkernagel, undisclosed as far as the fee that was back on January 6th. All right, that is enough football to fill your stomachs today. Why don't we switch it over to another and we have some Bulls news right here in Chicago. Your turn.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike, is it Mike?
Tuesday, it's time for Mike on the right here on Sportstown Chicago and Twitch.
This is your home for sports. SportsTownChicago.com.
Hot dogs has been 1980. It's not old news. You don't have to like hot dogs to like Joe's on Plainfield Road in Joliet. Italian beef, hot dogs, shakes, and sides. My family's had a relationship with Joe's Hot Dogs for 3 generations. Golden fries with a tad bit of salt and the perfect amount of crunch come in a bag as big as your hand. And that's just small. For more on the menu, visit joeshotdogsjoliet.com. Bringing that classic Chicago flavor to the suburbs. That's Joe's Hot Dogs across from CVS on Plainfield Road in Joliet.
At the football game, Jim shows the telltale signs of being wasted. He starts flexing for the camera. He refers to his muscles as gunboats. He screams, "How's this for a halftime show?" Jim streaks the field.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many to drive. But what if you underestimate just a few? Buzz driving is drunk driving. Service announcement.
The spread of respiratory diseases. Wash your hands. Avoid close contact with people who are sick. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Stay home when you are sick. Cover your cough or sneeze. Clean and disinfect frequently touched objects. For more information, visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and Windy City News Radio.
The Illinois Center for Broadcasting is now the Illinois Media School. We've been an institution in the Chicagoland area now for 30 years. Because the broadcasting world is always changing, so are we. Not only are we teaching radio and television production, but now you can learn all aspects of the media industry, like web design. You can even specialize in TV or film, sports broadcasting, and even sales. No matter where you are in the Chicagoland area, we have a campus near you. The Illinois Media School. Be on TV, be on radio, beonair.com.
Maybe that was money. Tell me that wasn't money.
Yo, check us out. We are the go-to guys. I'm your boy Space.
I'm your boy MC.
Check us out every Thursday
from 4 to 5 p.m.
We spitting all facts, all sports, all day.
Yes, sir. Who else you gonna go to in the club?
Lillard, long range three, and it's good!
Keeping you up to date with all the latest sports news.
We are
the go-to guys.
Where else you gonna get all your sports news from?
You know,
SportsTownChicago.com.
St. Patrick's Day, the only day of the year that it's okay to not boo the Boston Celtics.
I will show you mercy.
SportsTownChicago.com.
What's up, sports fans? I'm Mike Napolitano, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic right here at SportsTownChicago.com and the TuneIn Radio app. Now back to the show. Well, the Bulls are still doing what the Bulls do and having up and down weeks. About last week, they were inching out a 114 to 110 victory. However, the Bulls go right back to losing ways. They did play a tough to 17-20 on the season, but in typical Bulls, they can run back and forth all season long. They get a win over a Washington team that they had just lost to. And I know last week I recapped how they beat Charlotte in overtime. It was a close game. It shouldn't take overtime, and it didn't have double-digit win. And then you won almost 20 points. Thank goodness the Bulls beat the Washington Wizards by 33 points in this Friday game. I mean, if they had lost 2 to Washington, after they did play Washington earlier on in the season, and they beat them 127-108. But if you drop 2 games against Washington, especially at home, but we know how the Bulls have been at home this year, that would have been disrespectful to the fan base, to the sport of basketball, really. But then the Bulls do go on and lose on their Sunday matinee game to the Sacramento Kings. This was the return of DeMar DeRozan to Chicago, and he did not disappoint. He didn't lead his team in any of the stats, but pretty good game for himself. In this one, though, it was Zach LaVine with a high of 36 points in the game. Josh Giddey also had 11 rebounds and 7 assists, which also led the Bulls, but that was not enough to get the job done, as they give up 36 in the third, 27 in the fourth. They were outscored in both. The only quarter in which they outscored Sacramento was the second quarter, in which the Bulls put up 33 to Sacramento's 29. So the Bulls were actually going into the half with the lead. It was 63-61. There's a small margin for error there, but this is a tough Kings team, and the Bulls fought with them for the first half. It's just like the wheels fell off the bus in the second half, and they couldn't defend home court. So the Bulls fall to 8-12 at home, 18-21 on the season. Sacramento, DeMar, and that team 20-19 on the year, 10-7 on the road. So they are also a pretty talented road team, just like, well, should I even say the Bulls? Not really. So that brings us to the injuries. I kind of recapped them in the cold open. Adama Sanogo, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, Torrey Craig, and Emmanuel Miller. Torrey Craig, that is a lower leg injury. I believe it's his calf. He will be reevaluated in about 2 weeks as he continues to recover. But he's supposed to be back around January 27th. Adama Sanogo, he's out for tonight's game against the Pelicans. Kobe White, though, is questionable. He only has a neck injury. And same thing with Ayo Dosunmu. He's still also listed as out, but he's officially listed as questionable because of his calf injury. So a little bit of a banged up squad, but let's see if the Bulls can get some wins this week. They don't have the toughest of schedules tonight against the New Orleans Pelicans. This is another team that has yet to hit double digits in wins. 8-32. They're 3-16 on the road. I would hope, I would pray that the Bears, them too, but the Bulls can get a win against a team like the Pelicans. I mean, don't give them their 9th win. Don't give them anything closer to 10 wins on the season. The Pelicans already beat you in game 1 of this 2-game season series. That was actually the first game of the year. It was a 123-111 final, and it was just a slow start for the Bulls. There's a much different Bulls team now, even though a lot of the roster and the characters are the same. I would hope that the Bulls can get something done here. The leading scorer for the Pelicans in that game was Brandon Ingram for the Pelicans. He's out tonight. Take advantage of that. But knowing this Bulls team, I don't know if that will be the case. However, they did lose their last game. So if we keep with the same pattern here, the Bulls should win tonight, which means they will probably lose tomorrow night in their second home game of this back-to-back against Atlanta. The Hawks took it to the Bulls last time. They lost 141-133. The Bulls gave up a 50-piece in that fourth quarter against Atlanta. So that'll be a 7 p.m. start tomorrow, and let's hope the Bulls can, I don't think they'll drop a 50-piece, but at least get a win over that Atlanta Hawks team that humiliated them last time. They'll get a day off, and then Friday, the Bulls will conclude their homestand against a struggling Charlotte team. We just talked about how bad they are. That's a 7 p.m. tip-off. All three of those games are on Chicago Sports Network, and you can find them on also AM 670 The Score. One more game to recap here. That is the Bulls going on the road to Portland Sunday night at 8 p.m. to face the Trailblazers. And I guess we could talk about the 9:30 p.m. start time next Tuesday after another edition of Mike on the Mic against the LA Clippers with that new logo. I don't know how to feel about that. I like their other one a little bit better, but that'll be next Tuesday. No news on the Chicago Sky front, although we all know that their season really kind of is the opposite of the NBA. So while the NBA is going on right now, not a whole lot going on in the WNBA. So before we jump into them and that far future, let's talk about what is going on in the sports world today.
Back to your home for sports. SportsTownChicago.com. Scoreboard update.
At 5:40 on Tuesday, January 14th, I'm your host, Mike Napolitano, with your SportsTownChicago.com update powered by the Illinois Media School. If you are interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. Well, the Blackhawks are not in action tonight. However, there is some injury news. Craig Smith was just listed as day-to-day today. And then that also puts him on the injured reserve with Connor Murphy, who was listed as of January 11th, so this past weekend, right up against that matchup against the Edmonton Oilers. Still no word on Laurent Brossoit. I don't know if he's even ever going to see a crease in this league, at least this year, possibly ever again following this injury. We'll have to see if Laurent Brossoit can make some kind of a comeback. But I don't know. This is going on way too long. Blackhawks' next game is Wednesday. No, Thursday. I had that right. Against Nashville at 7 p.m. That'll be the Dads and Mentors trip. That'll be in Nashville at 7 p.m. This is a struggling Nashville team that is 33-22-7. So just a little bit worse, better than the Blackhawks. Better, everybody's better. But the Blackhawks 14-28-2, and they don't have the type of star power that Nashville has. This has been your SportsTownChicago.com update brought to you by the Illinois Media School. If you're interested in a career in media, go to beonair.com. What's up, everyone? This is Mike Napolitano, and you're listening to Mike on the Mic right here on SportsTownChicago.com and the TuneIn Radio app.
This is your home for sports. Red left! SportsTownChicago.com.
Take that exit and get to the Southern Cafe, home of the Nasty Biscuit on Roselle Road in Roselle. Get over there and try the chicken fried chicken biscuit made with the Southern Cafe's house-made drop biscuit with buttermilk chicken fried chicken smothered in country gravy, topped with shredded cheddar and crumbled hickory smoked bacon. I always say that when you go to the Southern Cafe, you come out with 2 meals with the heaping amounts of food they serve you in every meal. I love to go to a place with outdoor seating. The Southern Cafe has a great outdoor seating area to help social distance, and I get to enjoy my breakfast outdoors. Open 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. to give you plenty of time to grab an amazing breakfast or lunch. Now get your butt over to the Southern Cafe on Roselle Road.
Hello?
It's speed walking day.
Dorothy? You're breaking up.
Did I mention we'd be slowing down when we pass the court where those fine brothers play ball?
I heard that.
Reduce your risk of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Get active, eat right, and maybe even run into Mr. Right. Isn't sisterhood beautiful? For more information, go to everydaychoices.org. Brought to you by the American Cancer Society, the American Diabetes Association, the American Heart Association, the Ad Council, and this station.
Alert! Alert! Be gone, maxed out credit cards, overdue loans, suffocating interest rates, and relentless collection agencies. If your credit rating is making you and others around you cringe, there's only one thing to do, and that's to turn to the professionals at Creative Credit Solutions. Even if your credit is less than perfect, we'll help you get back on track. You can do it, and we can help. Call today or visit creativecreditsolutions.net for your free credit check report.
Blow the whistle on SportsTownChicago.com. Mondays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m. as we talk NFL.
The game plan was really sound.
It's a quarterback league. It has been. It still is.
Franchise-defining quarterbacks.
College football.
Will Jim Harbaugh make it through the season as Michigan's head coach?
Some more Big Ten talk.
And here's some things you wouldn't expect.
I would have never expected that.
Get all of that and more on Blow the Whistle on SportsTownChicago.com.
Testing. Is this thing on? Hello? Can you hear me? Guys? Somebody help. Hello?
Now back to Mike on the Mic on SportsTownChicago.com and Twitch. Well, let's get into some hockey here. We just heard a little bit of the injury report in that sports update. But, yeah, the Blackhawks, their season is all but over. It has been for a while now. But there are some good things, I guess, we could talk about. First and foremost, the win against Colorado last Wednesday was completely unexpected. We talked about how the Blackhawks needed a better response after that Winter Classic, and they got it in that Friday night game against Montreal, but then immediately went back to their losing ways and in terrible fashion with that 6-2 loss to the New York Rangers. And then it was a tough schedule for them coming up. And it started out with a Wednesday night game on national television against Colorado. Well, the Blackhawks got the victory. I know, believe it or not. We saw goals from Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, and also Ilya Mikheyev, assisted by Bedard. So a 2-point game for Bedard. Colton Dach also getting his first assist on Frank Nazar's goal. Teravainen his 19th assist. And the Blackhawks take this one after being down 1-0. So this was a comeback victory. Peter Mrazek is the first star of the game. He finally looked back to himself in his winning way. Well, in his good goaltending way. Sometimes he's not always getting the win here with this Blackhawks team, but 35 saves, 9.972 save percentage. I can't do numbers today, but Peter Mrazek, this is the best he's looked since coming back from his injury, starting to look a little bit more like himself. However, then the Blackhawks go on the road to face a struggling but on a streak Detroit team. Just Detroit had won 5 straight games coming into this game. Make that 6 as they dismantle the Blackhawks at home in Little Caesars Arena. They are now 19-18-4 after a 5-3 victory against the Blackhawks. And this was basically former Blackhawk night because you start off the scoring with an Alex DeBrincat goal assisted by Patrick Kane. Who else? Ryan Donato gets the Blackhawks on the board with an assist from Connor Bedard. With that assist from Bedard, the Blackhawks' young superstar. He had tied and surpassed Patrick Kane in points as a teenager in Blackhawks history the previous week. This time, he was going into the game tied with Patrick Kane in assists. He surpassed Patrick Kane in Blackhawks teenager assists with his 27th of the year in this one. And he did it against Patrick Kane, which was kind of a very cool storyline. Unfortunately, Patrick Kane said, anything you can do, I can do better. Lucas Raymond puts Detroit back in front after one period. So that first period ended 1-1. Lucas Raymond scores on the power play in the second period. And the assists came from none other than Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. Then you fast forward to the third period. Andrew Kopp nets a goal. The assists, well, of course, they came from former Blackhawk Eric Gustafson and Patrick Kane. So Patrick Kane finishes with a 3-point night. All of them are assists. He's the first star of the game. Teuvo Teravainen manages to get second star of the game with his 2 goals, assisted by Nolan Allen and Colton Dock, and then the second one was unassisted. Those came about 7 minutes apart from each other, and those were the final 2 goals for the Blackhawks as they would try to crawl back from a 4-1 deficit, but it just wasn't enough. And the third star of the game, Lucas Raymond, but you could have thrown Alex DeBrincat in there as well for 1 goal and 1 assist on the night, because that's what Lucas Raymond had as well. So the Blackhawks fall to a Red Wings team that they otherwise probably shouldn't have lost to, but Detroit did just change head coaches from Derek Lalonde to and that name is escaped, Todd McClellan. And so they're kind of in a similar boat as the Chicago Blackhawks, where they're trying to kind of jumpstart their season after they weren't really where they wanted to be. 6 in a row for Detroit after that one, and the Blackhawks would have to come back home and play the second half of a back-to-back against the defending Western Conference champions and Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. The Blackhawks fought in this one. They stayed in a very tight race. Unfortunately, the Blackhawks gave up 2 2-goal leads. They went up 2-0 by the end of the first period with goals from Teuvo Teravainen and Nick Foligno. Foligno assisted on Teravainen's, and Teuvo Teravainen assisted on Nick Foligno's. But Vasily Podkolzin, he kind of cuts that lead in half. Ryan Donato builds it back up again, but then it's Adam Henrique and Corey Perry that erase the lead for the Blackhawks and tie things at 3. And in the third period, it's a power play goal from Zach Hyman that gives Edmonton the 4-3 victory. Leon Draisaitl, he had 2 assists in this game, but Connor McDavid was only held to 1 shot on goal. So it really wasn't the big players for Edmonton in this one getting the job done. When you finally look at his numbers, he was a -2 on the ice. He only had 1 shot on goal. He had 3 missed shots and only 2 hits. When you look at Connor Bedard, because this is supposed to be the Connor-verse, not a whole lot from him either. He was also a -2. No shots on goal, 2 missed shots, and a whole bunch of goose eggs along this entire stat sheet here. He won 3 faceoffs of the 7 that he took. Connor McDavid, he won 7 faceoffs of the 11 that he took. So at least McDavid was a little bit better at the dot, but not a whole lot going on in this one. So if you missed that game, didn't get to see the Oilers come to town, just like I did, you didn't miss a whole lot in this one. And then the Blackhawks would continue against Western Conference teams. You would think they're on the road, but both of these were home games. This time, Calgary comes to town, and Calgary, kind of a bubble team this year, trying to get into that final playoff spot in the West. But Calgary, they helped their cause with a 5-2 victory over the Blackhawks. 3 goals in that first period, 2 from Jacob Pelletier, and he becomes the first star of the game with 2 goals and an assist. He wasn't able to cap off that hat trick, but he gets the assist on Jake Bean's goal in the second period. Connor Bedard scores on the power play, and that point on that goal now marks 100 points in the NHL for Connor Bedard. It was a beauty of a wrist shot. I'll see if I can pull it up for you here. And Connor Bedard now passes, he is the quickest NHL player to 100 points, quickest teenager to 100 points since Sidney Crosby. So that is good company to be in. But also, he did it in just as many games as Austin Matthews, and he was there quicker than Patrick Kane. Have a listen to Connor Bedard's absolute wrister snipe against the Calgary Flames.
Teravainen bobbled, makes a play back to Jones, quickly over to Bedard from the top of the circle. Scores! Connor Bedard on the power play! And still 4:01 left in the major penalty.
So, as you heard from that was per Charlie Roumeliotis on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to hear more from Charlie Roumeliotis, you could tune into AM 1410 WRMN's On the Rise. We got a chance to interview him, myself, and Derek on Saturday. He is super knowledgeable, of course, about this Blackhawks team, and it was a pleasure to get to talk to him. Instead of just having him for a half an hour, we had him for a full hour, which was awesome to get to talk to him and pick his brain about not only this Blackhawks team, but just NHL hockey in general. You can also find him on the Breakaway podcast or on WGN AM 720. He is covering every game with the headset on and getting to talk post-game and pre-game with Troy Murray, as well as sometimes John Weideman and our buddy here at Illinois Media School, Jack Heinrich. So congrats to that group. They are doing a phenomenal job covering this, less than phenomenal Blackhawks team. But Connor Bedard, also congratulations. 112 games it took him to hit this 100-point mark. As I said, it's the same as Austin Matthews. So if there's any worry about Connor Bedard's production, maybe he was in a little bit of a slump earlier in the season. He was riding a 9-game point streak, which was the longest for a kid his age in the NHL. He was riding that point streak up until that Edmonton game where he did not register a point, didn't even register a shot on goal. And then, he takes one night off, comes right back with a beautiful goal against Calgary. Unfortunately, the Blackhawks don't get the job done against Calgary. They fall 5-2, but Connor Bedard, 100 points, keeping pace with guys like Crosby and Austin Matthews. And if you're worried about how Connor Bedard is at the faceoff dot, he has similar numbers to how Sidney Crosby was in his first couple of years. So it's going to come with time. It's just whether or not this Blackhawks team can go with him, because if there's just the solo Bedard talent, I don't know if that's going to be enough. He is a playmaker. He's a game breaker, but I don't think that he is going to be enough to carry this team in the playoffs alone. Look at even Patrick Kane had a Jonathan Toews. So we will see going down the road. I mentioned Thursday night, the Blackhawks will be in Nashville to take on a struggling Predators team at 7 p.m. That'll be on ESPN+. Also on ESPN+ will be Saturday's 7 p.m. home game against Vegas. These two games are part of the dads/mentor trip for the Chicago Blackhawks. So they will be in attendance, hopefully kick these players in the Spurs just a little bit. And then Monday will be another home game against Carolina at 7:30 p.m. All those games are on ESPN+ or Chicago Sports Network. You could also find them on WGN AM 720. All right, we have one more section to go here, and that is, of course, the baseball section. We'll talk a little bit about some off-season moves for both your White Sox and Cubs, as well as some transactions throughout the league. It's a terrible time for baseball here in Chicago, but we'll do our best to bring you all of that off-season news now that the winter meetings are over, right here on Mike on the Mic.
This is your home for sports.
Longtime fan.
Sports is like life. SportsTownChicago.com.
What's up, Chicago? If you're ever, and I mean ever, out looking for good urban food 24/7, come down to White Palace Grill, located 1159 South Canal Street in Chicago. White Palace Grill is open 365 days a year since 1939. I personally love the steak and egg dinner, but whether you like burgers for breakfast, steak for lunch, or French toast for dinner, White Palace is the place for you. The diner is a 24-hour urban oasis. Come now, come later. Hey, come now and later. We never close at White Palace Grill, located 1159 South Canal Street in Chicago. Visit us at whitepalace.com or order with Uber Eats or Grubhub anytime, any day.
Daddy, when you look at me, I could see your wheels turning. About what am I going to be when I grow up? A major league first baseman? Maybe a point guard for a national champion.
The odds of a child becoming a professional athlete are 1 in 16,000. Far-fetched? Maybe. But did you know the odds of a child being diagnosed with autism are 1 in 166? That's right, 1 in 166. To learn the signs of autism, go to autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Go to Lux Barbershop for the best barbers and stylists in Plainfield, Illinois. I go there when I have an important event, date, or I just want to look good. The straight razor shave will have you looking fresh and smooth. Lux Barbershop is open 7 days a week. Go to Lux Barbershop for the finest barbers, stylists, braiders, and massage therapists in the southern suburbs. Check out all their daily deals on Facebook, Instagram, and luxbarbershop.com.
Hi, this is Joe Perry and Steven Tyler of Aerosmith for Red. You know, it's okay to rock and roll and party down. Just don't get in that 2,000-pound bullet when you're done and cocked. And please don't drink and drive. I'm the one that jaded you.
A reminder that friends don't let friends drive drunk. A public service message brought to you by the Ad Council, U.S. Department of Transportation, National Association of Broadcasters, and RAD.
The Chicago Dogs are back on SportsTownChicago.com. Tune in to the season opener against the Sioux City Explorers, Friday, May 28th at Impact Field in Rosemont. First pitch at 7:05 p.m. Hear all the action right here on SportsTownChicago.com.
All right, let's get into some baseball talk here on Mike on the Mic. The White Sox and the Cubs have had interesting off seasons, but let's start with the Cubs actually first because they go and get Kyle Tucker in a trade. They don't have the money to also take on Cody Bellinger. And then they're going to go to arbitration over about $2.5 million for Kyle Tucker. I understand that they probably don't think that he is worth that kind of money. And we're expecting to pay him a little less. But, I mean, I just don't understand why you go out and make such a big splash for a guy when now it's an issue. Now it's going to go to arbitration, and now that arbitration's never fun for anybody. If you know anything about it, the team's basically going to point out all of your flaws, tell you what you're bad at, so that they can drop that price tag and argue for less, and you're going to have to meet in the middle. So there's not much of a middle here. The Cubs are willing to pay him $15 million. He wants $17.5. I mean, we are talking millions here, but I mean, $16 million. Can't you just come to an agreement without going to arbitration? I just that boggles my mind, especially because there's a lot of people talking about how Kyle Tucker may have a regression year. The Astros, I think we talked about this last week, never really give up anything unless they know that they're not giving up anything, if that makes sense. They know that they're probably not going to lose a whole lot on this deal. So we shall see. The Cubs also traded outfielder, kind of a utility player, Miles Mastrobuoni, to Seattle in exchange for cash considerations. They also agreed to terms with right-handed pitcher Colin Ray on a 1-year contract. They designated right-handed pitcher Michael Arias for assignment. They also acquired Matt Festa, right-handed pitcher from Texas, for cash considerations. They designated Miles Mastrobuoni for assignment earlier than that, but he cleared waivers. So they also agreed to terms with right-handed pitchers Eli Morgan, Nate Pearson, Justin Steele on one-year contracts. So Steele will be back in the Cubs lineup. When we take a look on the White Sox side of things, they've made some interesting moves as well since the new year. They acquired left-handed pitcher Tyler Gilbert from the Philadelphia Phillies in exchange for right-handed pitcher Aaron Combs. They designated shortstop Braden Shoemake for assignment. They agreed to terms with infielder Bobby Dahlbeck on a minor league contract. Agreed to terms with infielder Josh Rojas to a one-year contract. They also designated shortstop Jacob Amaya for assignment and sent outfielder Corey Julks outright to Charlotte. We saw a lot of Corey Julks this past year. Not sure if he's quite ready for the big leagues yet, so he'll probably be starting the year down in Charlotte. The White Sox also agreed to terms with right-handed pitchers Justin Anderson, could be a decent deal, Penn Murphy, and Steven Wilson, as well as first baseman Andrew Vaughn on one-year contracts. So Vaughn will be, of course, returning to the White Sox. However, this is probably the strangest of moves you will hear all day. The White Sox, just this past Friday, agreed to terms with catcher Omar Narvaez on a minor league contract. Yeah, you got that right. That is the same Omar Narvaez that played for the White Sox before. When you take a look at his baseball reference, his stats, he has still been around the game, but it's been a number of years since he's been with the White Sox. His last season with the White Sox, 2018. That feels like years ago. And he did a year in Seattle, 3 years in Milwaukee, and 2 years with the New York Mets. He was a negative .9 WAR last year in his 28 games played. He had 69 plate appearances, 65 at-bats, 10 hits. Not great. So he batted .154. I don't know about this move for the White Sox. So of course, they're putting him in the minor leagues to start here, but we're going to have to monitor this closely to see if anything transpires there as far as White Sox stuff. I don't know if we mentioned last week, because during the time that we were off, there was that 3-week period of the holidays. The White Sox also changing their name of their home field, their stadium, to the Rate Field, because the company itself, Guaranteed Rate, has dropped the guaranteed part. It's just ironic, though, because, you know, there's a certain somebody, Jerry Reinsdorf, that doesn't like to guarantee anything other than 100 lost seasons. Even if the White Sox were to win 20 more games this season, 101 losses would be that new total. Some other notable moves. Just this past week, the Giants added Justin Verlander right after we got off the mic last Tuesday. They were in agreement to a $15 million one-year contract. The Reds have also acquired infielder Gavin Lux from the Los Angeles Dodgers for a draft pick and an outfield prospect. They're also adding another prime age hitter that, they hope bolsters their NL Central roster team this year. Right-hander Michael Lorenzen and the Kansas City Royals agreed on a one-year, $7 million outfield contract extension. Dodgers landed Hyesung Kim on a 3-year, $12.5 million contract. He is a KBO infielder, Korean Baseball Organization infielder. So coming over from there, everybody's talking about this Roki Sasaki. No news on where or if he is going to sign, but we will keep you posted here on Mike on the Mic. Washington Nationals have also agreed to terms with first baseman Josh Bell on a 1-year, $6 million contract. And outfielder Teoscar Hernandez and the Dodgers have re-upped on a 3-year, $66 million contract. There's some other contracts that are some big ones that I want to save for next week when we have a little bit more time. Maybe there will be less football. But but we are running out of time here, and I do want to wrap things up, but I don't want to jump into these contracts and do them any disservice because there's a lot we have to go over. All right, let's talk about the different places where you can find me. The Voodoo Podcasts, the January episode will be dropping next week. I've got some very cool, very interesting guests to talk to as the Chicago Hump Builders Shindig is coming up this weekend. And we will get a chance to see a lot of familiar faces. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. And starting in this new year, you can find it, the Voodoo Podcast, on YouTube. I will post the link, or you can reach out to me if you need that link once that is all up and running. Stream Sports Midwest. I was just broadcasting the Nihil Premier Select All-Star Games last night with the voice of the Chicago Dogs, Aaron Schellen, Eric Willowite, and Ethan Wiles. You can find that on the Stream Sports Midwest YouTube page. That was 3 great games that we did, too, that Eric and Ethan E-Squared did on the other rink. That was a lot of fun over at Glacier Ice Arena. The Divided Podcast and the Parlay are Tilo's podcasts, friend of our show. G-Lead and the Derek are also on Divided. You can find that on Spotify. And also, the Parlay has Kendall Gill, which is on YouTube and Spotify. Kendall Gill, 15-year NBA veteran, and also the voice on pregame and postgame for your Chicago Bulls. You can follow me on social media. But before you do that, be sure to tune in to my other radio show, On the Rise with Derek Geyer. That is on Saturdays from 8 to 10 a.m. on WRMN AM 1410. You can listen on the radio or on YouTube. We talk Ice Hogs, Blackhawks. This past week we had Charlie Remeliotis on, as I said. Wolves, Steel, Windy City Bulls, and Chicago Bulls, which means we're probably going to be getting Kendall Gill on very soon to talk about that. And then also a little bit of fantasy football with Nick Johnson. We also cover the Boomers and Cougars in the summer. We just got a chance to talk to the Frontier League commissioner this past Saturday as well. So it was a pleasure talking to Steve Tassler. You can find that, as I said, on YouTube or listen along on AM 1410. So follow me on social media, Mike Napolitano on X, Mike_Napolitano on Instagram, Mike Napolitano5 on Snapchat. SportsTownChicago.com and the Illinois Media School are on X and Instagram as well. That is all of your sports news for the week. Be sure to make it back here next Tuesday at 5 for another episode. Thank you again for tuning in. I'm your host, Mike Napolitano, and this has been another edition of Mike on the Mic.
This is your home for sports.
This is the best fans in the world. No better team.
SportsTownChicago.com.
Are you ready for this? Valley View Automotive has all of the hottest SUVs you've been looking for. Enjoy a test drive and the opportunity to drive one of these powerful vehicles off the lot for half the price. Yes, half the price. Now's the time to get yourself to Valley View by car, on foot, or even by air to take advantage of this outrageous sale. You better get here quickly, because this promotion is only going on for 24 hours, and the automobiles are leaving the lot faster than you can say four-wheel drive. Valley View Automotive, a dealership you can depend on.
Hey, I'm Andy Griggs, asking you to help prevent domestic violence. Domestic violence isn't a woman's issue. It hurts all of us. Women are injured and killed every day by their husbands and boyfriends. So it's time for men to take action right now to teach boys that violence against women is wrong, to help prevent abuse before it starts. Call the Family Violence Prevention Fund at 1-800-END-ABUSE to get a free Take Action kit containing tips on what to say to boys. That's 1-800-END-ABUSE. Teach early.
Indeed is the #1 job search user with over 250 million monthly users. Indeed's priority is to help everyone in the job searching process to find a job by uploading 10 new job opportunities every 10 seconds worldwide. With Indeed, you have free access to job searches, resume uploads, and company researches. There are over 10,000 employees at Indeed that pursue to help people find the job they are looking for. They connect with millions of people to new opportunities. Go to Indeed.com and sign up for free and create a resume and let Indeed do the rest to help you on your job search.
Hey, I'm Jesus Mauricio. Be sure to tune in every Friday to listen to Zeus Off the Bat, a baseball talk show from 1 to 2 p.m. where I'll be discussing and updating you on all things about baseball. News, predictions, reactions, and more about the Cubs, Sox, and everything across the league. Happens every Friday at 1 p.m. right here on SportsTownChicago.com. Don't forget to follow and share our Twitter and Instagram with your friends at Zeus Off the Bat. Zeus Off the Bat.